Yo, what is up, guys? It's your host, the one and only Sage D Samurai here, back at it again with another part 2. What if Asta had Mihawk sword skills? Now, glad that you guys are here for this part. I know it's been a while since I've been posting, but like I said, guys, things in my personal life has been taking up much more of my time, so I will not be able to do much. Also, another thing is, during the recording, you guys might hear like the clicking of my mouse or something because the mic I'm using, it's like very sensitive to sound. So if you guys just end up hearing me like, click around like this, yeah, you're probably gonna end up hearing it. That's all I really want to let you guys know. But besides that, guys, again, I would like to apologize for not posting much sooner. And yeah, this month has been pretty slow. But then again, I honestly don't know. It's just because mostly of the time I'm trying to focus on school and other stuff. But besides that, guys, I'm just gonna be done talking with these announcements. All right, there's not really much point of it. I'm just gonna go ahead and get started with this what if, since I know some of y'all have been waiting for it. So without any words needing to be said, let's get started, shall we?
You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow, you can't be a pro. Don't waste your time no more. Who the fuck are you to tell me what to do?
Alright, guys, let's go ahead and begin this what if, as we'll be covering up a lot of territory now. And honestly, I just want to get started with this what if, pretty much. So we now left off with Asta pretty much revealing his new powers, as he had pretty much gotten a new ability after merging the power of the Demon Dweller Sword and the Demon Slayer Sword into the jet black katana that he had. Due to this, Asta's power was way too much for the 3 strongest members of the Eye of the Midnight Stone, causing all of them to actually retreat and honestly just not bother them anymore, or at least for now. Now, another thing was the fact that Asta, after doing so, had pretty much actually attained power that was far greater than most could have expected. After that, of course, Asta had returned back to the Black Bulls. Everything went around smoothly, with Asta mostly training half of the time. He also would of course save the people, of course, as he had, joined Yami, pretty much saved the people from the Diamond Kingdom mages, as well as he also began to train the Black Bull members who had asked for Asta's assistance, such as Magma, Noel, and even Luck. So all of them have been getting trained by Asta, causing each one of them to gain more and more power. But due to all this would cause a spark to awaken in Vanessa, as well as all the Black Bulls, as she would actually go and search at the witch's forest, as this is where we're now gonna pick off where this what if left off from. The last what if left off. Just dang it. Sorry, guys. It's just the fact that like the air condition here, just like there's no air condition right now. I don't know what happened. It's like it got broken or something, and currently right now it's hotter than a bitch. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. So if you guys end up hearing me like out of breath a little bit, it's because it's so dang hot in here, bro. But back to it. So with that being said, we now pick on where we last left off. So we now see Vanessa, who currently right now had gone on a pretty long trip to the witch's forest. However, unaware to her, back in the capital, we end up seeing Asta, Noel, and Magma, as well as Luck, as they were also making their way to the witch's forest. The Black Bulls had gone a mission from Julius, that being for them to get a magic stone from the witch's forest. And if they were not able to get the stone, at least convince the Queen of the Witches to at least protect it, as they need to make sure that the Eye of the Midnight Sun members do not get the stones. So with that being said, Asta, as well as the rest of the gang, had also went over there. However, unaware, they were also technically going in the right direction, as they had no idea Vanessa had went off to the witch's forest, of course. So arriving there in front of the gates, Vanessa would of course ask them to open up, which would cause all the witches that were there, who were currently guarding the place, to actually come out of hiding as they all look at her. As they were surprised to see Vanessa back, but they didn't say nothing more as they opened the door, allowing her in. Now, as soon as she walks in there, the familiar territory would actually cause Vanessa to have a bunch of pretty much, I wouldn't say like PTSD, but I would say she pretty much ends up getting like a bunch of flashbacks. Oh shit, the air conditioning is back. Oh right. Well, now the air conditioning is back. Woohoo! Okay, now back to it. As Vanessa continues on making her way, as she decides that she needs to visit her mother ASAP, this is when suddenly she will then hear a bunch of cries from the witches around her, as they all begin to shout, as this is when they suddenly say trespassers are approaching. At this, Vanessa is actually, wide-eyed at this. She wonders who is coming. However, as soon as she turns around, she realizes what they were talking about. At this, we'll see Asta as well as the squad there, each one of them rocking the Black Bull's attire, as of course a bunch of the witches had surrounded all of them, with them mostly glaring at Asta and pretty much the rest of the males on the team because, they have some sort of strange dislike for men. Who really knows? I'm just going to continue on with that. Anyway, moving right along as we do so, this is when suddenly Vanessa would of course approach them as they end up telling them like, yo, that's my friends, like let him go, as we now end up doing a miniature time skip. So after everything getting resolved, with mostly the witches allowing them entry after the queen had stepped in, pretty much allowing the guests to enter, they all decide to go. However, they do send like a couple of glares to the males that were there, to which Asta doesn't even bat an eye at. As this is when we're face to face with the queen, as she will go ahead and actually greet Vanessa as well as the rest of them, and now begin to demand them why they were at her territory. At this, Asta will put it simply as he ends up pulling out a pretty much some sort of signature from Julius, which was sort of a way for them to either one, get the stone, or two, warn them about the impending danger. At this, the witch queen of course reads it all, as she ends up thinking like this is all a bunch of baloney. However, as she does so, she would sneakily end up looking at each one of them until her eyes settle on Asta, as although the queen does not want to admit it, she was slightly terrified of Asta in his presence. He had this dominating aura that pretty much told her if she even thought about stepping out of line, Asta would put her in his place. Put her in her place, as he would be staring down at her. At this, she will of course end up, putting on a front, of course, just acting it, showing that she was, confident and not scared, but also was easily able to see through it. As this is when suddenly, of course, after a while, she would then thank them for the request and everything, as this is when Vanessa would actually begin to speak up, as she asked her mother for some training. She said that she needed to get stronger, she didn't want to become a hindrance to her team. But this is when the queen of the witches would then scoff at Vanessa's request, as she begins to actually scream at Vanessa, telling her and exactly who is she to actually go around giving off commands. As she ends up telling and reminding Vanessa that she was the one who abandoned her family, to which Vanessa ends up looking down. At this, Asta, who was just calmly looking around, just supervising everything, will then begin to pick up on something as he uses observation hockey. At this, he ends up sensing multiple signatures approaching, and yes, it's the members of the Eye of the Midnight Sun. At this, Asta narrows his eyes, but this is when he realized something. At this, he realized that their strongest members are not with them, meaning that the damage that Asta had done, if you guys don't know in the last part, was pretty much significant enough to the point where they're not going to be getting up until like a while. As this is when interrupting the argument between Vanessa and her mother, also wouldn't speak up, as he then says, listen, the forces that we came here to warn you about are now approaching. And I can tell you this, you might actually be able to stand a chance against them, but for the rest of your troops. At this, just as Asta said that, it will end up hearing cries and scream of pain, as this is when the queen will actually widen her eyes as she hears the multiple amount of witches that were actually in the area getting actually defeated by the other members of the Eye of the Midnight Sun that had just broken in. At this, she couldn't believe her eyes. This is when Asta would say, now then, I have no tolerance for such things, so I will go ahead and begin to speak of this, and I'll say easily. Number one, I recommend you give us the stone, because easily, look at your troops. If these guys are not even the strongest members, then exactly what chance do you guys have when the true strongest members arrive to try to take that magic stone away from you? At this, the queen stares down at Asta with a surprised look, as Asta was being dead serious as he was slowly releasing the Conqueror spirit, which was intimidating her even further. At this, she would shakily end up actually reaching for the magic stone, intending it on giving it to Asta, as she was high-key scared for her life, like holy shit. This guy was not playing. And besides, what other option does she seriously have? Because unlike in canon, Asta was not injured at all during the Water Temple arc. In fact, they breezed through that shit. So there's no way she could have control over Asta like she did in canon. So with that being said, the queen, who right now at this point has no choice but to actually swallow her pride, will go ahead and nod her head solemnly, to which Asta can do nothing more but give a fierce smirk at. At this, Asta would then vanish right before everyone's eyes, as this is when Magma and Luck will also blitz into action as well, with most of the scientists stick around for, of course for Vanessa, as she wanted to be there as emotional support for her. Back with the group, like I said, due to the fact that Raya or Veto or really even Fauna is not even there, This means that this was an easy stomp for Asta, bro. Like, there are no way they're gonna beat them. Now, before you guys asking, I will say in this timeline, the Diamond Kingdom actually does not try to, does not actually end up coming here. So that means Mars and Asta do not reunite in this timeline right now. They will reunite eventually, but for now, no. As after a while, Asta as well as Madman and Luck would easily dispatch of the rest of the members and saving the Witch's Forest rather easily, as Asta was just way too powerful for them to even comprehend, as well as Madman and Luck with their new upgrades. Yeah, the members did not stand a chance. So after that being said, and after saving the kingdom, the Queen of the Witches would come down as well with Vanessa and Noelle in tow, as she would of course thank them, to which Asta would just nod. But this is when suddenly she would then do something surprisingly, as this is when suddenly she would then activate a spell, causing a bunch of ginormous blood cross to form, appearing behind all the Black Bull members except for Asta and Vanessa. At this, Asta would stare her down, as she would of course end up begin to speak like and I hate to say this, a true bitch. She begins to literally talk down to Noelle and even Vanessa. She ends up explaining to them y'all came into my home, began disrespecting me, and ended up thinking y'all gonna order me around. At this, Vanessa was now in fear. She actually turns to Asta as she ends up sending him a look for him to do something. But this is when Asta does something shocking. In fact, he does nothing more but stare her down with a serious expression, unmoving, not even an inch. At this, she looks at Asta in surprise, as this is when the Queen would then form a blood spear, intending to actually pierce Noelle. However, this is when Vanessa would actually look at the other members, only to realize that none of them were actually in fear or in terror. Each one of them were giving her a serious look. At this, Vanessa then realized something. The members allowed themselves to be captured. This was supposed for her to learn. At this, she also saw that in their eyes, they would not hesitate to literally risk their own lives if it meant to help Vanessa push past whatever she was holding back herself from. This would of course lit a spark in Vanessa, as just as the Queen was about to pierce Noelle with a blood spear, this is when suddenly a red cat would then appear right in front of the spear, as it would actually end up tapping Noelle on the head, just as the spear would actually seemingly miss Noelle. And it was actually really close to her face too. At this, Noelle goes ahead and stares down Vanessa, as well as the other Black Bulls with a serious expression, till this is when Asta, the final member that we see, ends up giving a smirk. At this, the other Black Bulls end up cheering for Noelle. Gosh dang it. I end up saying Noelle so many times. It's Vanessa. Gosh dang it. Alright. Back to it. At this, the other members end up cheering for Vanessa, as Vanessa was actually staring down at the cat, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. It's named Rouge, right? I don't know if I'm saying it right. Who knows? Anyway, she ends up seeing this cat, as this is when of course the Queen was not done, as she created a multiple amount of blood daggers as well, tossing it at Noelle, as this is when of course the cat would have easily make sure each one of them missed. At this, she realized that this was her magic to seemingly control fate itself. As all that being said, Vanessa would stare down her mother, as she actually ends up speaking her shit, because this was her moment right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and give it to her, as she ends up telling her mom a bunch of stuff like she does in canon, until eventually she is done, to which the Queen would easily release her blood magic, and everything went well. At this, the Queen kept up her end of the agreement, of course, as she ends up giving Asta the magic stone, as she honestly was afraid to stand up to that man. But who wouldn't be, bro? As this is where finally this will be the end of the Witch's Forest arc. Now, I know probably a bunch of you guys are like, but you took out so many key points of it and everything. This is how I'm gonna do the what if, okay? Besides, the other members of the Midnight, y'all don't understand the injuries that Asta is inflicting. That this man is on another level. Plus, I pretty much told you guys earlier from the start that this will be an OP what if. Yeah. So if you guys did not expect an OP Asta, I don't know what you're here for. But back to it. So with all that being said, the Black Bulls have returned, and they pretty much went on with their daily lives. In fact, things got so well to the point that Finro himself had, of course, joined in on this, training session, as well as Gordon, and pretty much most of the Black Bulls had pretty much joined in. Of course, Asta would of course push himself even further, as he actually ends up learning a new sort of technique, which I'm not gonna beat around the bush. It's It's him, merging with his devil pretty much, or Libe. It's him merging with Libe. It took a while for Asta to get it right, but he was able to make sure to where he can go ahead and just merge with him on the spot, and he's able to last for a very long time in it. So yeah, there's that. Another thing is that each Black Bull is, I would say, in their current state, each one of them is, if you guys have read the manga, each one of them is sort of on that level. And in fact, seeing his entire squad of, a bunch of fools, of people who don't do anything, becoming strong, even pushed Yami himself, as he had trained himself on a daily basis, and he pushed himself even harder to make sure that he was the right captain for this team. After all, if his team is getting stronger, the captain needs to become even stronger than them. Although he wasn't sure if he was stronger than Asta though. That is still undecided yet. As this one suddenly, of course, the Black Bulls have been working so hard, as Asta was now not the only one taking missions, as the other Black Bulls had also began to include themselves into it, with each one of them taking a mission that's on the board. So due to that, the Black Bulls end up earning a bunch of stars, as this one suddenly, Yami would actually announce to them about the festival, causing each one of the Black Bulls to get excited, except for a couple of few who end up knowing how to keep their emotions intact. As we end up doing a change of scene, we end up seeing all the Black Bulls now at the festival, with each one of them being excited for something else. At this, Asta would now be left with Noelle, as of course the two of them were just left out, as everyone had left to do their own things. So with that being said, Asta and Noelle being the ones alone, Asta would of course still invite Kayuto and Kahuno because, I don't know, I feel like they deserve the moment to have fun and everything. And of course, things go pretty well for them as things continue on going along with the canon, except for the fact that Asta, gets blasted away by Noelle and everything. As Asta was just calm and cool with it because, the boy's smooth. He's smooth with it. He got the unspoken riz, y'all. Back to it. Now after a while of having nothing more but fun, the Black Bulls end up now just chilling. They're sitting all the way, in the back, pretty much unnoticeable from the crowd, as they're all relaxing. With Asta calmly sipping some tea he found and brewed up, with Charming as well as feasting on a bunch of food, while the other members are just having fun and relaxing at the table. Now, of course, Yami was actually with them, as he actually decided to chill with his squad as they were all having fun. But this is when the announcement would then arrive. Julius would step up to the podium, of course flexing on all the individuals, as he would of course get cries from his adoring fans, as this is when he would then begin to announce who pretty much came out on top this year. Of course, as Julius ends up getting a paper from Marx, this one suddenly he will then begin to announce the first place title. Now we have in first place the Black Bulls, he would shout. Now everyone in the crowd was shocked into silence, while Asta as well as the rest of the Black Bulls will then calmly each one of them put on a small smirk as well as a small grin, while Asta just calmly keeps on that impassive look, although you could see a faint smirk underneath it. As this is when the crowd would then go ballistic, end up accusing the Black Bulls of maybe even cheating, while the others just think that the Wizard King probably got them confused because they're the Black Bulls, they're the worst of the worst, as you end up hearing a bunch of whispers going around. What? The Black Bulls? There's no way. As another one would end up speaking, yeah, there's no way, they're just a group of troublemakers. This probably have been a mix-up. At this, as everyone begins to, criticize them, the Black Bulls were all chill, pretty much, as they did not care about it. But this is when suddenly Julius would then speak up, as he would then begin to say his words. Now, I know, everyone calm down, I understand that the Black Bulls have not been the very best Magic Knight group, but that's all behind them now, as they have completed the most amount of missions throughout this entire year. And in fact, the new recruit of the Black Bulls seems to be the one who ended up helping them improve this much. At this, as Julius ends up saying these words, the Black Bulls end up sending a grin towards Asta, who ends up keeping on that impassive look. As this is when suddenly Julius would then shout up, as he then asked for the Black Bull captain, only to realize that Yami was not coming. At this, he ends up, of course, shaking his head a little bit, as this is when he ends up calling out for the newest member of the Black Bulls, as well as the one who ended up helping them get the most star. Their number one rookie, pretty much. At this, Yami would, of course, end up, grabbing Asta, to which Asta would then say, I can get there on my own, To which Yami would then say, really? Well, can you do it more spectacularly? At this, Asta ends up smirking, as this one suddenly he would then vanish right before Yami's eyes. As this when the crowd would then look up into the sky, as they would end up seeing like this ginormous cloud with dark thunder shooting out of it. As this when suddenly a dark light, like a red lightning, would then shoot out from the sky. As this when it would end up hitting right next to the Wizard King itself, shocking everyone. As this one suddenly appearing in a bolt of lightning, you will see Asta himself rocking the threads right now. The boy was full on dripped out. He looked cleaner than a mother. A nice and impressionable young man. I was about to say something. Back to it. Now at this, everyone in the crowd would gasp at Asta while the females were sending him looks. At this, Asta would stay there with a confident and cold persona, as everyone just can't help but look at him. At this, of course, instantly, Julius would of course continue on with the announcement, as he begins to actually end up stating that the Golden Dawn came second, while the Silver Eagles end up coming third. So with that, everything continues on the same like it did in canon, as eventually we end up seeing Yuno actually next to Asta as well, surprising everyone. But this one suddenly some random noble, I would say a random noble, a guy who participated in the, in the Magic Knight exams. He would end up shouting, saying that both of them were commoners. As this would cause everyone in the crowd to doubt their abilities. As this when Yuno would then erupt in a burst of mana, as he ends up pointing a ginormous windbird directly at Asta. As he ends up saying, "Asta, let's show them." At this, Asta would calmly look at Yuno and says, "I mean, if you're not too terrified of a little cut, then sure, why not?" At this, Yuno would of course send a fierce smirk at Asta, as this one he would then shoot this ginormous windbird, and faster than anyone's eyes can really perceive it, Asta would instantly cut the bird in half, surprising everyone in the crowd, as the ginormous winds will actually send some people flying out of the crowd. At this, everyone was shocked by it, that even some of the captains that were nearby ended up getting pushed back. Afterwards, Julius would of course end up speaking up, saying that yes, they are both commoners, but they have proven more than likely that they are heads and shoulders above the rest of us. At this, everyone continues looking at all of them impressed and everything, as they end up shooting them with a bunch of compliments, and ends up saying like, who cares they're commoners, bruh? At this, Asta and Yuno will take it all in great stride, as we now continue moving on with the events. Eventually, the king would actually arrive, causing everyone to be confused, like, who the hell is this guy? As they all just wonder, like, bro, why can't they have Julius as the actual king? But they did not really care. At this, the man would actually begin to announce about the Royal Magic Knight exams, to which both Asta and Yuno silently think that it was just the Wizard King's idea, as there was no way this man could actually be thinking this. So with that being said, they end up announcing the amount of time they have to prepare, as after that, the ceremony would just come to an end, as everyone was now left to enjoy the festival. At this, as Asta and Yuno was now making their way out, this is when they would then both stumble upon the scene of Merliona hitting the head of Fuegoleon in front of the rest of the, the Crimson Lion Kings, as she ends up screaming at them, pretty much saying how the hell they got 4th place. At this, of course, Fuegoleon would then get up saying that they've been busy doing other things, but Merliona did not want to hear it, as she ends up glaring at her brother. Now, Fuegoleon, not one to take this disrespect, will actually ends up standing up to her as well, as both of them begin to get into a fierce argument, while Asta and Yuno trying to make their way out. But this is when Merliona would then see them, as she would then stop them in their tracks, as she ends up speaking to them, asking them and just where the hell they would think they're going. At this, Asta would then calmly say, "Back to my squad." At this, as Asta was preparing to leave, this is when Merliona would then try to reach at him with this flaming claw, only for it to be cut in half faster than she could even perceive it. He's fast, she would think. As this is when suddenly she would then feel a poke on her back, causing her to actually widen and actually look around in fear, as she actually ends up backing away, only to see in surprise that Asta was buried behind her, as he poked her with a finger. At this, Asta would then say, "Don't try to attack someone from behind. That's very unprideful." At this, she actually looks at Asta in surprise, as she can only think that, how did he? As she couldn't believe it. In fact, she was actually getting excited, as she was actually thinking that maybe she can go ahead and fight this guy, because bro, this man went behind Merliona without her even noticing, and she has like instincts like a predator, like bro, come on now. At this, Asta would of course just calmly walk away from her, as she of course was disappointed. She was not ready, like bro, she was ready for a fight, but Asta just he's just not for it. Now at this, she ends up turning to the others, who currently right now just look at all the display with like a bunch of respect. Gosh dang it. I'm sorry guys, it's just the fact that talking this much is like generating a lot of saliva. Shit. Alright, back to it. Now, with the Crimson Lions, they were like literally looking at Asta with respect. Like, this man had done the impossible. He straight up made Mereoleona fluster. That deserves praise and respect, alright? As Asta would calmly walk out of there like a badass, following behind. So with that being said, Asta ends up rejoining his squad as him and Yuna will go their separate ways. As after that, they decided to go back to the base as they decided to train for the exams. However, as the days were following occurring, this when suddenly, as all the Black Bulls were now training, which yeah, each one was training now, even Ghosh, even Gray, this when suddenly they would then be approached by none other than Mereoleona. She appeared at their base one day, as this is when suddenly she would then see Noelle as well as the rest of the Black Bulls training outside in their backyard, which was pretty much the entire forest, but heck, I'm not one to judge. At this, she ends up seeing their training and she realized just how brutal it was. Well, on the other side, she sees Magma with like a bunch of paper around him as he seems to be concentrating on like different seals and stuff like that, surprising her. She sees Lug zipping around as to her he looks like a lightning bolt. Like, he literally looks like he just turned his entire body into lightning. I'm sort of getting this idea from Enel from, One Piece, if you guys watch it, which I'm pretty sure some of you guys do. As she saw him like blitzing around like in a thunderbolt like form. At this, she ends up hearing the sound of clashing up ahead, as she ends up seeing Asta and Yami as they were both clashing blades with each other, with Yami seemingly going all out instantly while Asta was just calmly staring him down, facing off against him. Now at this, as she was observing all this is when suddenly she would then hear Vanessa walking up to her, as Vanessa would ask her what she was doing here. At this, she would ask all the Black Bulls to actually join her, as well as the rest of the Crimson Lion Kings, to go ahead and join them to train each other. At this, Asta as well as the rest of the Black Bulls actually all stared down at her, as they actually wonder whether or not to accept. At this, slowly, eventually, Magma, Luck, and pretty much the rest of them begin to accept, with Asta slowly just contemplating about it. At this, Mereoleona decided to play at Asta's stream, would then say that Yuna was coming along, to which Asta just sighs as he was, again, not really worried about it. Yuna has his own training, he has his own training as well. At this, she ends up stating that he can be there as supervision, as they never know when their squad mates might be attacked or something. At this, as Asta begins to contemplate all of this, she realized that she was not giving up, and she seems like a person who would have a lot of tolerance. So with that being said, Asta went along. So with that, they end up, of course, going to the same volcano that they went there from before. As they all stare down at it, of course, and she ended up explaining to them that they need to climb all this up, to which the Crimson Lions are just like all groaning, while the Black Bulls all stare down and not even nervous at all. As this is when suddenly, as soon as she says this, Asta would then step forward, as he would of course sense the immense heat. He will then calmly do something surprising to everyone. As this is when Asta would then speak silently. Libe. At this, suddenly black wings begin to erupt from Asta's back. Jesus, dude. As it would be growing in size to the point that it could actually end up lifting Asta up. At this, everyone's staring in shock as Asta would then suddenly blitz forward towards the mountain, easily dodging all the obstacles as he ends up flying at a very incredible speed. Yuna was next up, now one to fall behind from Asta, as he chases after his brother, as the rest of the Black Bulls would all join along. At this, Mereoleona was surprised at them, while the Crimson Lions, realizing like just how behind they truly are, all decide to try their best to get to the mountain as fast as they can. So eventually, one by one, each one of them would eventually arrive there to the hot springs, with Asta coming in first place, coming in second, and pretty much I'll say this, I'll say the captains, Asta and Mereoleona came in third. And eventually Yami, Charlotte, and pretty much the rest of them end up arriving. As after all that training was done, each one of them had enjoyed their hot spring, unaware about the intense and brutal day that they're about to have, as well as the intense events that are going to happen in the future. So now moving on, as we do so, eventually we'll end up seeing everyone eventually arrive at the tournament. It was a tournament, so back to it. They all ended up arriving to the exams. The Black Bulls were now rocking actually a new set of dreads, which actually, I'm learning how to draw, so maybe I might draw it out with Asta, with a combination of Asta and Mihawk. Who knows, I might do it. I don't know. But either way, back to it. Either way, the Black Bulls were walking like this new set of dreads as they all look clean as hell. Like, bro, I'm telling you. Of course, as everyone see the Black Bulls, they couldn't believe the transformation that they had, as they still, like, some people were still, like, in disbelief that this used to be the worst of the worst Magic Knight squad, and now here they were, coming in first place, as well as they have the drip. Oof. But back to it. At this, the teams and the pairings are still going to remain the same. We'll also end up getting paired with Mimosa, as well as Zora. As, of course, Asta doesn't know this, but he's able to pretty much tell that this man was not exactly the man that they were talking about. After all, number one, this man did not seem like the person who would actually join a Magic Knight squad. He seemed more of a person who would most likely rather beat the shit out of every last one of them than really join a Magic Knight squad. But, who knows. At this, of course, after that, the matchups will then begin, with the first round matches going down pretty simple. The Black Bulls and their squads end up dominating the first matches, as I'm not going to get into details into these ones, because honestly we already know that they were going to obliterate it. As for Asta's team, they would easily stepped up to their matches as well, as they were just a bunch of mages there preparing, as this one Zoro then says they didn't even have to do anything, as he had already set up a bunch of traps. At this, Asta would then calmly say, "You're right, we don't have to do anything." As this one also then calmly unsheathed his sword, as faster than anyone can see, he would easily unsheathed it and put it back into his sheath, as he would then calmly walk back to his group. At this, the others wonder what the heck happened, as to them they just saw Asta just, unsheath his blade and then put it back into the sheath, as they didn't really see anything. As this one suddenly, they'll then hear a big amount of cries, as they would then end up hearing like a ginormous boom being heard. As back with the other team that they were up against, they will see a ginormous slash that just came out of nowhere as they cut in the diamond or the crystal in half. As the others couldn't believe, as well as the rest of the people who were watching, also calmly walked back to them as he says, "These exams, seems something tells me they're going to be very intriguing." As after hearing that, Mimosa as well as Zora can't even do anything, as they see Asta calmly just walk away from them. While Zora is just thinking like, what the hell? Just, who is this guy? He thinks, as he honestly felt like a cold chill went down his spine as he saw Asta's look, as well as him having a smirk on his face. I swear he couldn't believe his eyes, as he's just thinking like, that is not a regular Magic Knight. Heck, that guy might not even be human. As this is where I'm going to end this part to this what if. Hope y'all do enjoy. 31 minutes. Yay. Hope y'all do enjoy. And yeah, I'm just going to sign off now, because honestly guys, I have like this headache right now and I'm just trying to relax. So thank you all for tuning in on this one. And either way, it is Sage the Samurai and I'm out. Peace.